show is massive bull trap, but two question marks. So there's a lot of talk. We talked about this with Magic in the Morning. Is this going to be a reversal and changing the structure of the chart, flipping it back to bullish, or is this going to be one massive bull trap? If you guys watch the morning show, I believe we're going to get a relief rally up to the 86.5 region. That'll close the CME gap we had on the way down, and that'll hit a key level, and then we have one more spill off, and then that'll be the bottom. And I'm going to show you guys some metrics and charts to kind of back up my thinking. But first, we got a confirmed bullish divergence on the daily on BTC. And so again, I do expect a little more push to the upside. And I talked about this 84.1 level on the morning show, and we didn't quite get there, but it looks like that is where Bitcoin is currently rejecting on the daily. The important high we want to take out here, my friends, is going to be $90,400. If we can clear that high, and I don't know if we get there on the relief rally again, 86.5 to 88K would be the range that I'd be looking at potentially for a reversal, trapping the bulls and getting that final flush to the downside. We know the headlines have really been moving the price of BTC and all markets in general. But just notice, I like to keep a lot of these trend line, these boxes, I like to keep them on the chart because I like to come back to it and say, okay, how did price react to the levels we predetermined? You can take a look here. This box from 75.1 to 76.7, that is exactly where Bitcoin found its bottom. More specifically, 76.578. And the reason we had this box here is because we had a little bit of consolidation before we had that massive move to the upside, this one daily candle where we saw a 10% move from BTC. We did have our little pit stop in this area, and then we came back down. So I expected this area to be retested as support, which it did. So again, I do expect more upside and then coming back down for BTC. And then this one, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, called the NVM ratio. This is Bitcoin network value to the Metcalf ratio. And I added a 50-day simple moving average. And I want you to notice a trend here with me, okay? So you have your price, which is going to be in white. You have your ratio, which is in purple. And then your SMA is going to be this dashed line that you can barely see. But we just had a bearish crossover of price and our 50-day simple moving average. Now, historically, when that has happened, and we can zoom out and zoom back in, let's take a look at where else has Bitcoin's price crossed below our 50-day SMA. The first one I see is going to be, let's zoom into, is going to be right here. This was on June 10th of 2024. Price closed below the 50-day simple moving average, and Bitcoin trended from 67K to a local bottom of around 53.9. And then once we had the crossover to the upside, which was here, Bitcoin's price was at 63,379. We had that crossover, and then of course we ran to all-time highs. And where we currently are right now, again, we did get a bearish crossover on our 50-day simple moving average of our NVM ratio, meaning that right now, Bitcoin is currently overvalued. And so now to reclaim this, you're looking at around $86,800. 86.8 is where we want to get to flip this back to bearish, to bullish. Now, we did have a few other times where we had brief deviations. We had a cross, and then we just reclaimed it almost right away. And one of them was here, right? We saw Bitcoin's price cross below the 50-day simple moving average, cross above, got rejected, right? And we retested this line a few times, and then we came back up, and then this was back on January 12th of 2023, where we really started that massive run for Bitcoin leading into this bull market, and a few times, and I'll zoom in here so you guys can see a little better. And this dotted line, these lines are a little not as visible as I like them to be, but we've had multiple retests of this, and this one was a deviation back in June of last year. We deviated below, price got all the way down to around 56,000. we kind of trended, we traded here, we chopped sideways, and then again that crossover back in October of 2024 is when we saw price maintain above that and create a new high. And again, we've just had a bearish crossover on that. And then the minor position index, this one as well, are miners selling or buying? And you can see here, anytime we get a spike above our 2 level here, right? We see price see a deep retracement. And we can even take a look at this one here. This was back on the 24th of March. We saw the MPI start to trend up and Bitcoin spilled off from around 68,000 down to 63,000. More recently, this was back on November 12th of last year, leading into this massive rally. Bitcoin corrected from around 90K down to 87K. And then we've been kind of flirting with this line multiple times. And each time we've seen a sharp drop off. This one happened from 98.4. Bitcoin dropped down to 92,000. More recently, this was on February 3rd, where we saw Bitcoin go from 101 down to 96.6. And then the most recent one was on February 25th, which was just a few weeks ago, where it led to Bitcoin's massive drop from around 90K down to that lower 84 region. And we are trending that way now with the miners. This kind of measures how much dollar value in Bitcoin they send to exchanges, assuming miners would only send to exchanges if they are looking to sell BTC. So again, I believe we have more downside to come, but we should see a little more push to the upside. But I'm curious what you guys think. You think this is going to be a massive bull trap? Or do you think that price is going to continue higher? We take out some local highs, and we kind of change the structure of the chart. C. Frere said, "Is this a bear trap?" No, I actually think this is a bull trap. So bull trap, price trends up, and it traps all the bulls, and then we get a new lower low. Milton said, "No panic here." I'm not panicked. It's just looking at charts and stats and trying to find a way to make money. I believe when the tariff war is over, that's when we'll rebound. He may Mercer. Yeah, Araniac. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but I agree with you. And I know a lot of traders, they don't pay attention to headline or news, which is totally fine. Everyone has their own style. I have my own style. My background is more in swing trading and scalping versus day trading. And then in the world of options in the stock market, there's not nearly as much volatility as we see here. I would just put in, I don't know, 6-month contracts and then have my take profit levels and kind of cash out there. But it's definitely a different game when you're trading in crypto. That's why you really got to work the lower time frames. And you got to be careful not to get trapped and have tight stop losses, and make sure you know exactly where your levels are before you get into any trades. Yeah, and I agree with you, man. Once this whole tariff war, everyone is so afraid of what Trump is going to do next, how are the markets going to react, and everyone tries to front run how the markets are going to react. I think that's why you see the last few weekends for BTC and for all coins, they've been very, very volatile. All right, let's take a look here. Also, we caught some support at our anchored VWAP level, our lower band 3 there. So that proved to be some decent support. So this was Sunday, March 2nd. We had a massive rally. And then Sunday, March 9th, this was a 6% candle. Sunday, no, not that one. That one was pretty low on volatility. Let's see here. This was a Monday. This was a Sunday again, where Bitcoin dropped around 3%. And so we've seen a lot of volatility because you see people are expecting Donald Trump to say something, or, hey, how are the markets going to open Monday? Usually bad news drops Friday after the markets close. Hopefully that won't happen anymore because they're looking to take the stock market and Wall Street to more of a crypto style 24/7, at the very least, 7 days a week, maybe not 24/7, but at least 7 days a week with the same trading hours. So either way, they're not going to be able to hide behind dumping bad news on Fridays. And the only risk on markets that are open is cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And those tend to spill off as, again, people anticipate how will the stock market open on Monday. And let me go ahead and put my hedge in the crypto asset class because that's the only market, again, that's open. So, yeah, I hope that kind of, I don't know if that was a question or not, but either way. All right, let's take a peek at the coin market cap. Who are the biggest gainers, the biggest losers? Again, we did see a nice rally up to 83, almost $84,000, but there's really not a lot of volume. There's not a lot of volume, and the trend is clearly negative. If we throw on our cloud, go here. Let's hide this. Let's hide this. You see on our cloud, right? So I like to use this. It kind of shows me that the trend of the market. And obviously, we are in a downtrend. We are trading well below our cloud. Not only that, but we're trading well below our 2 moving averages. 26-day, 26-day and our 9-day moving average. This is going to be your conversion line. This is your baseline. We want conversion line to be trading above the baseline. But the number one thing is we want this price to trade above the cloud. As you can see here, this is on the daily, by the way, so a higher time frame. We chop sideways. We try to reclaim it here, and then we completely spilled off. We had this crossover here. This was back on the 3rd of February. This would have been our very first signal as price dropped below the cloud. We reclaimed, but we had that crossover of our conversion line crossing below our baseline, and it has remained that way ever since. And Bitcoin has spilled off from that crossover, total of around 24%. This is on the higher time frame. On the weekly, we are still technically in a bull trend on the weekly. And what you're seeing printed on the weekly candle here is a potential spinning top, signifying indecision in the markets between the bulls and the bears. And it is happening in a key area between 81.8 and 71.6 for BTC. Now, the good news is we have a lot of room to run to the downside. Depending on when this happens, if we get it before the 14th of April, before tax day, you're looking at, we got room to drop down around 60K before this thing turns bearish on the higher time frames. Now, as time goes on, obviously this is a dynamic indicator, so that cloud will be trending up. Maybe it'll get skinnier, maybe it'll get fatter. The skinnier it gets, the less volatility. And this is 26 days forward looking. So this what you see here is from 26 days ago, from this candle here. It's projected 26 days into the future. And so on the higher time frame, it's still bullish. We still have a lot of room to run if you're a Ichimoku Cloud trader. And not to mention also, our conversion line is still trading well above our baseline. And so that's great. Now, what I would have loved to see on this candle here as a reversal, this was a massive hammer candle, but we saw prices spill off to the downside. Now, of course, long term, I am super bullish on BTC, but this is just for scalping and trading and what you want to look at. Another thing I want to take a look at for BTC here is a few things from CoinGlass. One, this is the CVD, the cumulative volume delta, but I want to focus here on the funding rates. And funding rates are still positive, meaning the longs are paying the shorts. And so shorts are still incentivized to put in short orders. But when you take a look at something like ETH, same thing. XRP, actually, shorts are paying longs. And this is after XRP got to that bottom of around $1.95. And shout out to, I forget who was yesterday, that pointed that level out, that $1.95, needing to hold up. And let me get rid of this, get rid of this. And again, you can see, you know, these anchored VWAP levels are pretty good support and resistance levels as well, as long as you pick a high volume candle. And again, this is on the daily, but XRP got all the way down to around $1.90. But that was a level again. And we actually have, looks like we have a bullish div on XRP on the daily as well, right? Lower low. And on the RSI, we have a higher low. And so lots of bullish divs on the charts. Of course, this is XRP. We already showed the one on BTC, which kind of plays into my thesis as well. Again, is we're going to see another big move to the upside, but bulls are going to get trapped. And open interest looks like it is looking to flip green again. Actually, that's not open interest. That's going to be our MACD. But this is the liquidity flow index. Open interest is still red, and XRP's open interest has been absolutely getting destroyed. Going back to Monday, the 20th of January, we've had 2 trading days where OI has been green. The rest of it has been red. We want to see that flip. We also want to see this price sentiment line trade above our midline, which is typically a great time to enter into a long or a short, depending on which way it breaks. If it breaks to the upside, we enter longs. If it breaks to the downside, we enter shorts. But this would have been a great entry. That $2 level for XRP would have been a great entry. Another one I want to revisit from yesterday, we talked about Aptos, and we looked at their token unlocks, and we looked at historically what Aptos did in and around their token unlocks. Now, this line I got dropped here, this was yesterday at the exact time that I was live on this show. We talked about entering a potential long for Aptos. And if you did, and if let's say you timed the top, it was a 10% trade, not too bad. Now, Aptos is spilling off again. Looks like it's looking to catch some support right around this $5.20 level. But what I want to do today as well is there's a few other unlocks happening. We have the Aptos unlock, which is today, currently happening. Starknet, ARB, IMX. So we'll take a look at a couple of these, see if we can spot any other potential trades or money-making opportunities. But I want to kind of go back to here and take a peek at the rest of the markets. ETH, $1,917 for Ethereum. It needs to get back up to like $2,200 for ETH. It's been, I would argue, the worst performer. Oh, this is also not good at all here. So we had this falling channel here. This has been going on. This is an ongoing channel since November of last year. And we talked about this range starting to get tighter. And during yesterday's show, we did have this candle, and the candle closed below. And I said, we haven't closed below yet. You see all these wicks, not a single close below, but we did get that close. But I think the worst thing here is we got a rejection of re-entry. So ETH's passport expired. It tried to re-enter into this channel, and it got rejected. And so that's from a technical standpoint and looking at charts, this is not good. If we zoom out to the weekly, let's throw on a couple of things. Let's throw on an anchored VWAP. And let's go back to here. All right, so it looks like we're catching a little bit of support here at our lower band 2, which is good. And on the weekly, technically, this candle has not closed yet. We can come right back into this pattern. And if we do, retesting the upper end, which again, that number, $2,200 to $2,300, excuse me, that is a level I want to see ETH, because everything else on this chart, literally everything else, the consolidation phase, the trend, like the higher time frames, the lower time frames, we're taking out levels. We're approaching like the beginning of the bull market / the end of the bear market levels. I mean, ETH bottomed that at $1,000 in the last bull market, and we're only on the last bear market. We're only $900 away. So it's pretty bleak on the chart. But again, I just cannot punt. I cannot punt Ethereum. I just can't do it. But yeah, I mean, your absolute best. You want to talk about value for Ethereum? I know Robin talks about $1,800 all the time, but the value area for me is going to be, no, not there. The value for me is going to be around $1,600. You see what price did here. This was back in 2018. We attempted to get that level on the way back down from our 2021 bull market. We had a couple wicks down in this area. And then back in 2022 in July, prior to FTX going under, we attempted to break above, ultimately got rejected. And then into the bull market, this area was great level of support. You see here, price broke above. We came back to retest on a wick. We held. We came back, right? Price pushed up to around $2,028. We closed below. And again, we closed above that 1617 level. And we are kind of approaching that level now. And so if you're looking for absolute best value for ETH, 2 ways to do it. 1, set a limit buy order for your spot bags. And 2, set a limit long order on a trade, on a swing trade, a long. And this is something that I feel comfortable doing a higher leverage play, like maybe a 12 to 15x. If you're a super degen, maybe an 18x. Because if ETH loses $1,617, I mean, I don't know. I might have to call up Robin and say, hey, man, you might have been right, which, trust me, if you watch our show, not something I would enjoy doing or would like to do. It's going to peek into the chat here, say hello to some new people. Daniel Clifford said, David, do you agree with Magic that Bitcoin will top out around 124K? I actually don't believe, I don't agree with Magic. I don't think Bitcoin tops out at 124K. I think what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing this snowball effect of, well, the USA Strategic Reserve, right, they're going to start buying, and then this country is going to start buying. And when you get into a scenario where demand starts to rise, audio is super low. You guys not getting enough audio in? Mic check, 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 check. All right, I juiced up the audio on the mic. Let me know if that's better, you guys. Sorry, I should have checked on that a little earlier. Either way, this should be good now. I gave it a little extra juice on my end. So anyways, when you talk about stocks and a stock price goes up, if it gets to a point where maybe the public doesn't have access, $1,000 versus $200 for a stock is obviously the $200 is going to be more appealing to the average investor. So what do? They do what's called stock splits. You dilute your shares, but you keep the same market cap. And the entry point, that nominal number is a lot lower, and it's easier to attract investors. And it's a great way to raise money. Cool. Then people start buying at the lower levels. And then Tesla has done this multiple times. Got up to $800. They did a 8-to-1 or a 13-to-1 stock split. Microsoft, Amazon, you name it, they've all done it. You cannot do that with BTC. It's got a fixed supply. And so that is the biggest thing for me. And again, this is the first cycle. And I know Magic uses the extensions and the projections, which is great. And it worked for it the last cycle. I mean, the top, I think for him, he's talked about it. The top landed exactly in that same range that he had those extensions up there. But I just can't. When you break it down to its base level of, super loud real quick, when you break it down to its most like foundational level, and you talk about everything we always talk about, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but if all that's going to happen, how could we possibly sit here and think that $124,000 Bitcoin is going to be the top? I just can't. I can't do it. So if he's right, that would be a pretty crappy bull market. But who knows? We'll see. Also, if there's anything you want me to take a look at, please let me know. I'm curious. What is your guys' number one holding in your portfolio, value-wise? And throw them in there, and I'll share mine. And then we'll kind of talk about that. And then, yeah. All right. Let's take a peek at the rest of the markets. I did want to kind of talk a little bit about Virtuals Protocol. I always talk about, if my thesis changes or anything. And I think my thesis for Virtuals has changed just a tiny bit. I'm not panic selling, but I've accelerated my DCA out strategy, and I brought those levels down from previous numbers. I've always said, Virtuals Protocol, and let me pull up a chart so I can talk through it. And I've always said, Virtuals Protocol, $15 to $20 billion. I'm going to have to adjust that. I'm going to have to adjust it down, and I'll, Virtuals Protocol just getting absolutely obliterated. 58 cents. 58 cents. This was my biggest bag. I mean, this is about as nasty. I mean, we've given back almost everything. And this level here that we're at now, this is a very, very important level for Virtuals Protocol. As you can see here, this was going back to October of last year. We kind of traded sideways below this area. Once we broke above it, we consolidated for a few days, and that is where we had our launch pad up to around $5. And that is where we're currently at right now for Virtuals Protocol. So if 52 cents doesn't hold, it's going down to like 34 to 39 cents. And then you're talking about this thing probably dwindling away. I don't know. But either way, I still think it'll get a bounce back. So here's what I've done with Virtuals Protocol. I wasn't planning on selling anything until around $3.50 to $4. I did take some profit around $4 on the last run up, but not nearly as much as maybe I should have. And so for me, the first level I am looking to DCA out of Virtuals Protocol is going to be this high here at $1.21. I think I have a 10% drawdown or a 10% ladder out at that $1.21 level. The next, I'm just going off of highs. The next one is $1.40. And then the big one here where I plan on keeping only 50% of my current position is going to be right around $2. $2. And then depending on what price does here, depending on if the team makes new inroads, new partnerships, but once they, because the way the virtual protocol ecosystem works is they have a sell tax, and a percentage of that goes into a fund for the developers, a percentage of that goes to the fund for the ecosystem, a percentage of that goes to the fund for the devs who launch the AI agents. And so what they've been doing is they've been taking that virtual and they've been converting it to Coinbase Bitcoin, CBBTC. But the problem is they've locked it in accounts that the developers of these AI agents don't have access to. And what that's also created is sell pressure for the virtual token. Now, they did bridge over to Solana, but the timing of that didn't really help as Solana transactions completely fell through the roof after the blow up with the Libra coin. And so there's been a few people, a few community members that have put out suggestions on how they can get the value accrual of virtual back up. And the team seems fixated on their strategy that they have in place. And they're talking about getting the APC out there, giving access to that Bitcoin fund for their developers. But I don't know, man. I really wasn't a fan of that when I saw that. Now, not to say that this is going to go to zero, but I think 15 to $20 billion market cap, and not to mention the competitors that are in the space now. You have Eternal AI, you have ARK, we have Hollow World, you have a bunch of different ones. You have Griff. There's a bunch of different ones in the AI space. And so when we get that next fresh rally, I think virtual rallies, but maybe it doesn't get back up to all-time highs. Maybe it doesn't get back up to $5.26. I don't know. I think it does. I think it gets to like $8 to $10 billion with a really, really hot AI narrative, with NVIDIA going back up. And we saw NVIDIA had actually a decent day today. But normally I'd be a buyer here, but I'm not buying any more virtuals. I still have plenty left. I haven't panic sold any because I still think it's going to get a bounce. The team is still working. They're still active. But I talk about it all the time, and I'm a steward of my own advice. If something fundamentally changes in my thesis, which to some degree it has or shifted, I also shift my strategy as well. I know a lot of people, especially from our Patreon, have kind of been asking me. So I hope you guys are watching. So there's my answer to your questions about virtual protocol. And a lot of those AI agents, the problem with having that money locked up as well is a lot of these dev teams are starting to FUD the project. You know, Y Combinator is one of them. They put out like, hey, when are we going to get our money? It's kind of sitting in there. And so not good, especially during current market conditions. You don't want in-house fighting. And that's kind of what we're seeing. You see a project like Sequoia just taken, it had and this was one of my favorite plays, was Sequoia. They had that rebrand to FuseShot, which is kind of a dumb name. Oh, it's up a little bit. Oh, wow. Yeah, this bag for me just took, I mean, that's a pretty ugly chart right there, my friends. Like the volume is non-existent, and you go to the daily, it looks even worse. I mean, we're at like the low lows. We didn't even retain any of the pump we got. So all those people that got in there, myself included, I took some profits. And if you followed me on these AI coins, we made a lot of money with them as long as you took profits. And so we always talk about this thing ran up to an $80 million market cap, sitting at $2 million. And so, again, not accumulating. This one, I'm looking to sell at like 8 to 10 million, start laddering out there. And then this one, I don't think is going to get back up to all-time highs, which again, is why we always say you always want to take profit. But I'm super bullish on AI, period. It's just the project I was most bullish on, I've kind of swapped that out with BitTensor. And I think BitTensor is currently very, very undervalued. And I actually bought more at $230 to bring my cost basis down, because when I did my big swap from Solana to BitTensor, I think BitTensor was at like $350. But Solana was at like 180, 200. And so far it's been a trade working out, and BitTensor is currently in that value area that I've had on here for we're actually at the lower end of it too. $200 is like rock bottom. And so super bullish on BitTensor. It's seen growth in subnet. I think 15%. We've seen 10 new subnets. And so there's going to be a lot of supply pressure or demand pressure for their token. And let's zoom out to a couple lower time frames here. This trend line held as support, which is great. So this was a great entry here at around $217. And you can see how price has reacted, both as support and as resistance. And then what I also want to do is I want to hide this. Let's hide this. And let's throw on an anchored VWAP. And let's go here. So you have our three bands, right? Our lower band 3, which is currently it's too low, right? So we have our lower band 2, which is going to be your yellow line here. And we had a small deviation below, but we came right back and reclaimed, and we retested it twice on a wick. And so could price come back down and retest this at around $230? Sure. This would be a great entry for a long. So if you're looking to put in a limit order on something like BitTensor, $231 would be a great entry, targeting the high you just had, which is $267, just to keep it as simple as possible, right? Can't get greedy in these market conditions, especially if you're going to go against the trend, which the trend is currently down. The trend is down and to the right. And so if you are going to put long positions in, find the rock bottom support levels, which would be $231, and then look for the very next high, which was $267. And you can see here, what did price do at these levels? This was back on last Tuesday. We saw price close at this level, and then BitTensor rallied, not even from wick, from close to high, 18%. We got a nice bounce off of here, and then we chopped sideways, broke below, and then we came back up, and it failed the retest again. So it failed to convert this back into support. So it's still currently resistant. So 231 to 267, that would be a long trade setup. Also, for future reference, now that we've kind of solidified this level as resistance, because previously it was support, this would also be an excellent area to short BitTensor in the current market conditions. But what we could be seeing right now on this is the 2-hour, is a potential bull flag pattern. And let me grab my handy dandy brush, right? So you have this big move to the upside, and then a parallel channel that trends down, and these things do typically break to the upside. And so this move would be, around a 19% move to the upside. Now, if we were in complete bull conditions, everyone was bullish, sentiment was bullish, the charts on the daily and down were all looking great, I would say, yeah, that's not, 20% from 267, it's $300, great, send it. But again, if we do get stopped out here, I expect this thing, if we do come back down to retest, and we can draw some fibs here. So you got your 382 level, which is currently sitting at 253. We could potentially see that channel stop there and bounce back up to this 267, or our golden ratio at 618, which is $242. You can see what has price done there recently. Again, these are 2-hour candles as price has caught support here, and it's bounced. And so those are the levels I'd be looking at. First, potential reversal or breakout of this bull flag pattern at 253.80. And the second one, and we'll just call it between 242.60 and 248.20. Good trade setup. Get into a long, have your take profit at 267.50, maybe a little bit below, like 266.80. and then short that thing. And then you can even reverse your position and enter into a short and try to catch support at that 618 level at 242. I'm curious, are you guys bullish on BitTensor? Are you guys bullish on AI in general? Let me know, because I am very curious. Also, I want to say, oh, my favorite person is here, Muhammad. What's up, my dude? Get a $10 super chat. Said, here's to zero. When Muhammad first came into our chat, I was like, oh God, here we go. Everything to zero is one of those guys. And then he stuck around, and I like Muhammad, man. Shout out to you, Muhammad. And so that was great. Also, Milton said, great insight in TA, David. Nope, can't get greedy. Yeah, I agree, man. TA is all about how you perceive information and data. And so what I use, you might not like, but this has been what's been able to work with me. And it's definitely been a shift in mindset for me to go from more longer term versus more shorter term, and taking into account the volatility and setting. I never use stop losses, by the way. I've never used stop losses. Okay. And now you kind of have no choice, especially when you're doing something like copy trading. You have to have stop losses, or else you're going to get liquidated. And so Muhammad said, BitTensor to 15K. Okay, Muhammad, you're a BitTensor fan. I like that. Almost capitulate today. Yeah, again, Kishan, I talked about this being a potential bull trap. And so that's where I think it's going. I think we get back, again, just to reiterate, we get back up to that 86.5, 88K level. And then we see one more flush. Could it be narrative driven? Could it be news driven? Potentially, yes. But we kind of went over that in the beginning of the show. So make sure you go back there if you want to see what we're talking about. All right. And then I do want to go over this as well. So again, yesterday we kind of saw what Aptos does. Let's take a peek. And by the way, I have not looked at any of these. What I like to do, me personally, which is why I like what Magic does, and I like what people like Alex O do, is they start fresh and they talk through what they're seeing on the chart, so you guys can see the process behind it, and not just, oh, I have a bunch of lines and you have no idea how I drew them. So let's take a look at which had the biggest unlock. So the next one is going to be Starknet. 2.3% of their market cap is going to be unlocked. So not a small number, but I want to take a look at Arbitrum. Let's take a look at Arb. So the first thing I do here is I go in, and this is, by the way, CryptoRank.io. And you can check here, this is their vesting schedule. So airdrop, the DAO, great, that's all done. So who is left to be paid through March of 2027 is the team advisors and the investors. And so it looks like on every 15th is when they have their unlocks with, again, team and advisors, and it's around 2.1% of their market cap that is going to be unlocked. So we can go back. Yep, just double check. Great. Now we go to a chart here and we pick on Arbitrum. Let's go ARB to the US. Let's go to the daily. And let's mark out the last 4 15ths of the month. So we'll start with February 15th. So that is the 14th. So we do one day before so we can take a look. January 15th. And then December 15th. And let's throw one more on November 15th. Here we go. Okay. So now we have our levels, right? We have the dates and what price does. And so just right off the bat, I don't really see any trend here in Arbitrum as far as in relation to its token unlocks. You have price dipping into the unlock and then having a massive rally. The next one, you have price rallying into the unlock and a massive dump. Price dipping into the unlock and a small rally. And this one kind of chop, chop, chop. So this is not a good example of potentially trading a token unlock. So we'll go back and let's take a look at ApeCoin. Around 2% of their market cap is being. Now this one has a lot of unlocks. Yeah, you got Dow Treasury, Yuga Labs. Okay, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of vestors that are potentially sell pressure. And again, 2% of market cap, with the highest allocation being released to launch contributors option 2. Okay. So it looks like the 16th of every month is where we see our unlock. So we could do the same thing. We go here and we pull up an ApeCoin chart. We go to the daily. What did I say? The 16th, right? Yeah, the 16th. So ApeCoin. No, that's not. No, Ape. Not Aptos, dummy. Ape. There we go. All right, ApeCoin. We'll go to the daily, 16th of every month. See if we can spot a trend here for ApeCoin and potentially making money. So we'll go February 16th, which is, damn it, here. Next one is going to be January 16th, which is here. Next one is December 16th, which is here. And then we have November 16th. Okay. So you can see there's a little bit of a trend here. Okay. And what is that trend? Outside of this unlock back in November of last year, we see price rally into the unlock day. And so from here, price rallied around 14% and then dumped. More recently, this was back in January, from wick to day of, price rallied 20% and then dropped. And then the more recent one, again, price rallied. What is this? Let's take it 3 days. Price rallied around 17% and then it dropped. And we are currently, what are we, 3-4 days away? So this would be the 16th. Okay, this would be our next. So I expect a rally for ApeCoin, right? 3 out of the last 4 token unlocks, we saw a rally going into and a dump after. So then now we have identified, now that we've identified the trend in token unlocks, let's go in here. Let's go out to the larger time frames and let's plot out some levels. And okay, higher time frame is not going to work because it's like the bottom 48 cents. Oh my god. Oh wow, you want to talk about that's an ugly chart. All right, so let's work our way down. Let's go down to 4 hours. Let's see what the 4 hours showing us. Let's throw on our price action concepts. Okay. All right, let's see if we've got any gaps, if we have any large order blocks. So the big one here is going to be between 55 and 58.5 cents, where we saw price had that massive spill off down to its previous week low, which was around 46.2 cents. We did have our previous day low sitting at 41.99 cents. But again, price is starting to rally. So the first area I'd expect it to rally into would be this order block, which the top end of that is going to be around 52.85 cents. And so, okay, we got to break a structure twice. So we've made enough lower lows to change the entire structure of the chart. Let's go into the 1 hour. Nah, thought it looked like maybe like an inverse head and shoulder, but it's not really. Let's draw some trend lines here. Oh, this looks like a decent one, huh? Okay, so deviation above. We kind of chopped along this trend line. We finally had a break above, right? Came back, retested, and fell back through. Reclaimed it, right? Had this little bump and run, and now we're well, technically it's not. It can be a bull flag here for ApeCoin on the 1 hour time frame. On the 2 hour time frame, lots of wicks, man. There's a lot of indecision in this market here for ApeCoin. See if we see any divergence. Not really. And so let's go here. Let's see some SNR levels here for ApeCoin on the 2 hour, and then we'll check on maybe the lower time frames. Maybe we'll go into the minutes here for these ones. We'll see. All right. Okay, so you have 47 cents. You have between 52 and 53.7 cents. So if we are going to trade, this token unlock scenario, and we do expect it to do what it did last time, which is rally. I will zoom back into the daily, which is rally into, which again, it is already doing. I would be looking at around 56 to 58 cents and then reverse it there, right? And if you use something like Buy DeFi, and I'm sure a lot of them have it, Mexi, Hotcoin, you name it, right? BitUnix, you can just reverse your position at 58 cents after the token unlock and then trade that thing sideways or trade that thing to the downside. And you take a look at how much downside. You had a 54% drawdown. And these are massive drawdowns. You have a 50% drawdown, right? From the pump into to the sell-off. And this one, we barely got a pump, but we still drew down 30. So the drawdowns are big. So you'll make more money on the way down than you will on the way up. And so if you're scared of the market conditions and you're like, look, David, you said not to long support levels. I just want to short. Okay, cool. Wait till this thing gets back up to around 58 cents and then short the shit out of it. And then you should be able to make 25 to 40% profit. Multiply by how much leverage you use. Could be a nice day in the office. All right. Make sure you guys hit the like video in a sad state of despair. Why are you sad? Don't be sad. It's going to be okay. PopCat will go to zero. Probably. You're probably right on that one. Any chance we can look at ICP? Sure. We'll take a look at ICP. Let's take a peek at ICP. By the way, I spoke with Kyle Langham from ICP. So if you're a fan of ICP, you'll be excited to hear this. We're going to be working with them in Bitcoin Vegas. I love that team. I love Kyle. Those guys are awesome. I'm also going to be sitting down. We're going to bring Kyle on the live show, actually. I think it's this Thursday. We're going to bring Kyle on the live show, and then I'm going to sit down with their chief, I think it was CBO, their chief business officer or chief development officer, one of them, Pierre, I believe. And so I'll be sitting down with him, and, I always tell the founders and the people at these projects, like, look, when prices are down, especially, and only if I think your project's going somewhere, like, look, prices are going down, everyone's panicking. Let's sit down. Let's make sure we reel people back in, get them away from the charts, and help them to understand that there's stuff happening on these protocols. And you take a look at ICP, this is on a daily. And we had this bear flag laid out here, which it did break to the downside. But if we zoom out to the weekly, and let's find our initial area here. You know what? I bet you we can go to the monthly on ICP. Yeah, it's much better. So ICP, what I'm looking at is, say this would be my value area for ICP. Between $4.20 and $6.50, which we're currently at now. We did have that one deviation down here where we got to a low of under $3. And then we work our way down the time frame. So this is on the daily, and we can see how ICP's price has reacted at these levels. The top end of this channel here is $6.42. This has held up as support, and obviously we tried really, really hard, as you can see here. We tried really, really hard to stay above. We chop, broke below, came back to retest, reclaim, but fell through, and then failed to retest again to the downside. And so could we hit the bottom end of this channel here? Potentially, yeah, $4.34. But I'd be keen on longing ICP at $4.35 for Internet Computer Protocol. And so the other thing we can do too is we can throw this on. We can throw in a few things. We can throw on this, see if there's any large order blocks. We can also take a look at our liquidity flow index. Okay, so OI is green, not bad. We spent about 20th of January. We spent about a month with OI getting absolutely crushed. Did we get a bearish crossover on the MACD? Nah, we're good there. And then the RSI. This is again on the daily, so the larger time frame. We did get a nice bounce at 30. So below 30 is oversold. We did get a nice bounce there, but prices continue to go lower. And again, this is on the daily for ICP. We zoom out to the 4-hour. We should be able to see more data on order blocks. So ICP did get a nice bounce around this discount zone. His previous day low around $4.83. And looks like you're seeing a lot of mini bear flags, but this one actually might have broken that, right? Because we crossed above our previous week low, which was $5.35. And so on the way back down, I do expect to catch some support at $5.34. And then on the way up, you do have some resistance right around 611 and 617. A few things happening here. One, this is our equilibrium zone. And two, this was an order block of around 2.7 million ICP that traded in this zone between $6 and $6.22. We've seen this area be support. We've also seen this area be resistance that we failed to retest of $6.60. And so overall, trend is down. Again, I'm still in the camp of shorting the resistance and not longing the support. I hope that helps, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I will see you guys in the morning stream tomorrow. Until then, peace.